All right, a little bit of time on Bullet Truck. So what we've been able to acquire is another transfer case, but this time with rear disconnect. It's a trail gear setup. The other thing with this is going to be our mock-up box. We're waiting for the new gears to come from Canberra, and so we're going to use this as a mock-up because there's a few mods to make. So as you can see, this has been set up as a top shift. So we go into our high and low range from the top section over what we would normally have the forks coming out here, and you would have your sticks at the front. So if we look in the cab, you would normally have your high and low range stick just there. So with the top shift, it gets moved. So we got to cut a little bit of this around here. But what we also got with these twin sticks, so what that allows us to do is put it in low range two-wheel drive at any particular time. Certain comps don't allow it, but others don't have a problem with it. We're getting the Marlin Crawler 4.7 comp spec gears. So they're coming up from Canberra. They're about a week away. So this is a mock-up for me to get my tail shaft lengths, because this housing now is about 110 mil longer. So we'll need to shorten the shaft. We need to modify the exhaust, and we'll probably need to modify the cross member. So what I also want to do is activate this disconnect. So it's an ARB airline fitting. So what I've done is we've got the compressor on, picked up one of the solenoids. Here's the end of it, and we're going to feed it. All right, so that's locked in there. So at the moment we're in low range, and you can see all the flanges are spinning. So I'm going to turn the compressor on, so which will be the rear locker. So that has now activated the disconnect. So I haven't touched anything with a stick. I'm still spinning this, and now there's no drive to that back flange. So we'll release the compressor, and now there's drive again. So in an event when you get bound up and you want to bring that front around, it'll be hit the compressor and it's disconnected instantly. All right, so we know it works. Now we're going to have to put it in position and see if we can modify the rest of this stuff. Michael's also got me a genuine cross member mount. This box has got 4.7s Marks gears, so it's quite an old setup, but it's got chromoly output shafts, because the boys that had this before did an output shaft and changed it with the chromoly and put Marks gears in it with the disconnect. So the disconnects hasn't done many events either, and as you saw, it worked quite well. Right, I am going to have to trim the floor back a bit, but it's okay because I can always put a little console with a cup holder or something in place if we do go back to the front shift. I'm just going to do it with the tin snips to start with. Don't cringe, it's not the first time we've put tin snips on the car. I know Brian said don't cut it, mock it up without cutting it, but I can't get in position, and I didn't want to do it without the stick in because I may drive it still before the new one goes in. Nice big hole, gives me the option whether I do want to stick with the top shift. My concerns at the moment, the bracket there that's obviously been made up as a cross member, we don't particularly need it. It's on there at the moment. I'm worried that my cross member is going to get in the way of it, which means I'm going to have to unbolt it all. I'm worried about the height that it's sitting at. I've got my fuel lines running above that where there wasn't anything before, so I'm going to have to then get some fuel line to go around somewhere else and pick up the line in here. Now my other concern is the angle that this tail shaft's going to be at. Am I going to need to move my wrap bar bracket, which isn't going to be a 5-minute job? So they're all my concerns. There's no orange paint on that bracket at the moment, so I've never hit that by the look of it. So we'll get the cross member sitting in there now and see how much it's going to come down, if any. Everything's so heavy. We're just getting old. So that's got to come down about 50 mil, which will free up all these lines, and it might just give me enough angle that I don't have to modify that too much, because I really don't want to modify that for the next 2 events. The wrap bar protects my diff. Worked out, as that transfer will come down, it's going to come forward to meet the hole, and at the moment we're just not touching, so that's going to end up hitting that. Now I don't want to cut that out because that's the strength. So I'm going to, before I put the cross member on, because it looks like this might stay for a wheel, I'm going to take it back down and get this bracket off. All right, while we put in the 8090, I just want to talk about a few of the concerns. So the cross member's in. It was just a matter of taking off that old bracket. Now we've come down way far enough off those fuel lines, which is great. My concern is still going to be this angle. We're going to have to chop up one of the shafts and throw it in and just see. But I'm worried that at articulation, it's going to be hitting that. So I'm going to have to try and maybe use my smaller diameter shaft that I've got, which isn't as thick. I feel that the thicker one's definitely going to be hitting there. Also, I've got to work out how to get an exhaust pipe from that flange back out to here somewhere. Also, I'm probably going to have to overfill this because we've got to get oil in that as well. I'm not sure how. Maybe I've got to fill it up when it's facing down a driveway. We're going to do a few more tests. This is in low range, neutral, with the hubs free. So I'm going to do a little test. Very loud with a muffler, no muffler. But it's not under load, I can hold it. I'm going to put it in second gear low range. Which will then now be driving with, so the gears and the boxes will both be driving, and we'll be able to listen for any noises, make sure it's all happy. And then I'm going to put a disconnect. I'm going to pretend to disconnect the rear. Disconnect that rear drive. It's disconnected it straight away as soon as I hit the button. Okay, I'm going to turn it off. Driving again. Pretty instant. Turning it off. Yep, compressor kicked in. And now I need drive again. There we go. That's second gear low range. We're going to have to make the shaft up before we can decide on what we're going to do with this cross member here and the wrap bar. But I got the exhaust out of the way so it's not blowing black smoke straight where it was at that earlier flange. So I've just got it at least pointing to the ground. So we've cut down that rear shaft and got it back in, and it seems like I'm going to have quite a bit of clearance there. So maybe I should have taken the gamble and cut down the big one. So this is one of my 5-tail shafts. It's probably, you know, as road friendly as possible. It's probably potentially 3 mil thick. But I wanted to cut this one back to see the clearance, which we're only going to be able to know for sure once we take it out and wheel it and see how close I get to that bracket. Otherwise, we'll be modifying. We'll move the wrap bar bracket across, have it off center. So that's why I didn't cut down one of my thicker ones. I've got 4 or 5 of the thinner tube ones, 61 mil OD. but I wanted to make sure we'd be okay. For the two events coming up, the Albion Park show, I think I'll be all right with that one. But then definitely for Rocket, I want to cut down the thicker one. So whether we're modifying this cross member or not is yet to be seen. The thing we did during the night, and thanks to Brian again, with that beautiful mud mat, mate, awesome. He supplied us that T-piece there. So that first outlet has got the front and rear lockers on it, and the second outlet is primarily only for the disconnect. So I'll show you how it works. Back inside, we got the ignition on, the compressor's full. So I can run my rear locker and my front locker. So that's all off that first outlet, which has got the T-piece. I can run one or the other. I can run front without rear. I can run no lockers. So now this switch that's going to be, I'm going to mount it in here. It's got an on and off for me, so I know what's going on. It's going to be my disconnect. So when I turn that on, it's going to give air into the back of the transfer case. So I've left it off just to blow out the line, plus to show you how I'm setting it up. I'm going to click that in. So that's in now. I'll throw a zip tie up here. The exhaust is temporary. We'll extend that later. All right, back in the cockpit, compressor on, front and rear lockers on. Whether we need them or not, we need to turn the rear drive off. We hit it. So that now has disconnected the rear. As we saw in the preview earlier, I can still muck around with lockers. So with the rear disconnected, you would always want the front locker on. And then now we're reconnected. You hear the exhaust of the air. So I think the only thing left to do is take this thing for a run. What do we all think? I think we should put it on the trailer, get this properly in. I know this is the mock-up transfer, but I really want to do a front dig. As always, thanks for watching.